you have not already done so.
Complex eligibility criteria which can prevent them from accessing the support they need and deserve. So I am very grateful for Supervisor Solis and Supervisor Hahn for this motion. Thank you. Your time has expired. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Rena Schmitz. You may begin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank Supervisor Solis and all of you for doing this incredible job of paying attention of the needs of the elderly adults. Recently, I was named a commissioner. I'm just learning how to navigate to best represent my community in the San Gabriel Valley. But the need is great everywhere, regardless of where you live in the county. First of all, I don't have to go too far. My sister came here 51 years ago. Can read, can write, is an amazing individual, a great aunt, and the best sister anybody can ask for. But I know the frustrations they go through, not understanding and not being able to have the services. A long time ago, I used to work in the casino, and there was this elderly man who used to come and clean the kitchen. He couldn't read and write.
Your time has expired. Next speaker, please.
Thank you.
Our next participant is Tracy Douglas. You may begin.
I'm with Aesthetic Legal Services. We fully endorse this motion. In our work, we see misconceptions about eligibility and systemic barriers to benefits. One client did not want to apply for Medi-Cal and IHSS because she was wrongly told that Medi-Cal would take her house. Misunderstandings and myths about Medi-Cal recovery persist despite changes in the law. Another client was told by DPSS that the state would go after her sponsor for the money paid to her from CalFresh. While possible, California has never done this. There are also exceptions to providing sponsor information, but many do not know. Undocumented older adult guardians of U.S. citizen children are afraid to apply for benefits because of what they heard about public charge. U.S. citizens are entitled to these benefits, but their families may not apply because they are afraid. By removing and improving access, we can significantly improve the quality of life for older adults and their families in LA County. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Kelly Takasu. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Kelly Takasu, and I'm with All
Begin.
Genevive, go ahead. Genevieve, are you there? Okay, we'll go to our next speaker.
Our next participant is Myron Jose. You may begin.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for all your work and addressing all the different issues that impact our communities. Immigrants are late. This is Environmental Columbia, so Founding Coalition and Immigrants are late. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we had the opportunity to meet with Dr. Trent, so we look forward to continuing advancing through the motion, other directives, in alignment with other community priorities, specifically funding programs and services for not just immigrant aging adults, but also transgender, trans, and immigrant communities, and aligning it along with other county missions to these efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Luz Castro. You may begin.
Hi, good morning. My name is Luz Castro. I'm calling on behalf of Immigrants RLA Coalition. I'm the Associate Director of Policy at Inclusive Action based in Boyle Heights, and I live in Southeast LA. Supporting older immigrants is a priority for IRLA, so thank you so much, Supervisor Solis, Supervisor Hahn, for championing this motion. And the reason why this is important for immigrants is because LA County senior population that is age 60 and older is projected to grow from 2 million to nearly 3 million, making up 28% of the population by 2030. And if you look at the state, the homeless population is aging rapidly, with adults that are 50 and older making up nearly 40% of those that are encountering homelessness for the first time in their lives. Seniors are among the fastest growing demographics, and despite working for decades, many of them can't age with dignity. This is in large part due because of economic hardship, poor wages, and a lot of other issues that have prevented them.
Your time has expired. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Preven. You may begin.
Thank you. Obviously, it's a nice idea. It's a little surprising that we're not making these services available in multiple languages even now. I know it's available in Spanish, but I will say this. Older people who are underserved and also those who are just older are vulnerable. And the county, before it rolls out in a massive outreach in multiple languages because it's getting poor matriculation in their services, they ought to make the services effective. We had a terrible situation in Malibu where a older person was attacked multiple ways, and first the sheriff's, and finally the fire department, and now Water and Power Estrella's group are trying to help because the water gets shut off by the young people who don't pay their bill. It's utility theft. They also have a problem where they stole electricity. And all of this, it should result in help. We got elder abuse out there. They tried to, now nobody can do anything. So it's time for the district attorney. So if you could, Supervisor Horvath, your staff was on this, contact Eric Preven, and we would like to at least make contact.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next speaker.
Appreciate your laser-like focus, but you're missing something. I just picked up a new county guidebook, except it's not a guidebook. It's not a G. So how can you spell guide without a G? People have been talking about elderly abuse. Your book on page 154, your county guidebook that was just put out, says Medi-Cal. I thought it was always Medi-Cal. Medical. Now it's Medi-Cal. I know what happened. There was a retirement ceremony they held at City Hall about 6 years ago. It's all about Barack Obama and the Affordable Care Act. And the 15,000 people that were signed up to get Affordable Care at Skid Row. And then they end up dying because he killed.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Your time is expired. We're moving on to
order treatment. Because sometimes, I guess my question is really, because I know we've got the money, but sometimes it's more than money, it's capacity, and how do we build that capacity? Because I hear that, in fact, we need to get more providers to provide these services.
So for the actual treatment, we partner with staff. So October of last year, in alignment with the new bell schedule, we did open our call center, which operates 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. One of the things you mentioned is transportation. That's been the biggest need from people. And we do transfer people currently to probation, to parole, and also to court and back home. And also from jail or prison and also back home or to probation or parole. So we do that already now, and we've served over 2,400 individuals, giving them transportation to court and home since October of last year. Specifically to your question on substance use, our call center links people in real time to the SAPC hotline to connect them to services that they're entitled to through that benefit. We also have a number of houses, and I can try to pull up the number, I can send it to your office, where we actually will put people in emergency housing that will provide substitute services until other beds become available. Everyone is not entitled to a bed based on their clinical need, but we do connect people to the SAPC resource through DPH for substance use disorder treatment.
So I guess then my question would be, if the court is, you coordinate with the judges in terms of what their needs are.
So we coordinate currently, well, if there's a number of ways. So if they go through RDP, then we provide the service directly through RDP. So we have care managers that do an assessment, they take them to housing, and they'll give them mental health, mild to moderate, not severe, but mild to moderate mental health, substance disorder housing, and any other treatment. So we have that, and that's in a court entity. 7 courthouses now. We're working on launching their 8th courthouse, the eighth location. And then for pretrial services, we'll be able to link them to services. So the call center, we link them through SAPC. So it's a number of different places depending on where the person comes in to connect to our agency. If they go through RICMS, which is our care management or traditional case management program, then we also link them through SAPC. So it's more like a hub that links them according to whatever benefit they're entitled to, but we do try to fill in the gap as much as possible.
Thank you. And again, thank you, Supervisor Mitchell, for bringing this forward. And thank you, Judge Armstead, and you and your staff for the passion that you have and the vision you have to bring this across the finish line.
Thank you.
Supervisor Mitchell?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to make a comment about the call center. As I understand it, for people to utilize the call centers, that means they're already in the community. So I am hoping that you are also providing linkages directly to people once they show up in court. Because that's what we're hearing from some of the attorneys are feeling that they think that is critically important.
Thank you for that question, Supervisor. We actually do both. So we have attorneys and case managers that actually call us from court. We actually have had individuals call us from custody connect the call center. So it's not limited to just those in the community. It's anybody can use it. And then when we have the Care Connect that comes online, that's also be acceptable. It'll be accessible to anybody, and hopefully the beta test will be available in about a month.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Establishing and expanding a robust pretrial system is critically important to our county's Care First vision of justice reform. And it's also critical to our ability to close Men's Central Jail, which has been our commitment, and our obligation to better care for our residents and reduce the number of people impacted by cycles of incarceration. So I want to thank you, Supervisor Mitchell, and your team for all of your work on this motion. We know JCOD has engaged in extensive and growing efforts to build out a robust pretrial system as part of its work. And I'm excited to grow and expand these efforts, which will not only improve the services and linkages provided to justice-involved members of our community, but also improve the county's credibility among our stakeholders, and even more critically, our partners in the state courts, to increase their willingness to leverage the alternatives to incarceration that are so important to breaking the cycle and reducing our jail population. I especially want to thank the stakeholders and community leaders who reached out to my team and to me personally about this item and its goals and its intentions. And I want to thank you for your investment in this work and your continued commitment to ensuring that our county makes good on our commitments and our promises in the Care First model. Recognizing that JCOD has been involved in this work and this motion directs you to do more, what will you see now as the key factors to ensure a successful pretrial services agency within JCOD?
Thank you, Supervisor, for the question. We've been doing our best to move diligently. We currently have a 42-member steering committee that meets monthly, where we show them our progress and where we're going. We will be launching our first pretrial services pilot location this month. It was going to be in Lancaster. The courts have asked us to move to airport, so now we'll be launching it at the airport courthouse later on this month. We're in the middle of hiring folks to be able to start at that location, and we'll be working with CEO, CIO. We have items that we identified as data points that we needed to collect, but with this motion, we'll be working with the CIO to make sure that we're able to collect all of the things that are being requested, and also working with our justice and health partners to work through any hurdles with releasing any of that information that's being requested.
And what do you see as next steps in expansion?
Well, we're launching the first pilot later on this month, so as soon as we can get those folks hired, we'll be ready to launch. The expansion after that is working on what the next site would be. We're looking at launching a new site every quarter based on funding availability and staffing. We are looking at best practices. So initially everything is voluntary. The courts have asked specifically to have conditional releases. That's really what they want. They want to be able to release someone with a certain requirement. And so we're working on what that looks like. And then the other hurdle that we're working through is sort of what will be exchanged. So we're working with our justice partners also on releasing information, and that there is some concern in that area from some of our justice partners about information being shared, and if that puts their client at risk, so we're looking at what that would look like so that we can make sure that people are getting the services without causing any additional harm, and that it's a true independent pretrial services agency.
And did you want to add to that?
And then the last thing is that we have 24 providers right now that do RSCMS, or what we call our care management side, and so we'll have to continue to expand that, because as we're bringing more folks home and providing services, we'll need more providers to be able to actually deliver the service and to help people navigate and stay home and provide the supports they need. And so we're looking to expand that as much as possible. We're also looking to expand our rapid diversion program to other sites. We're probably going to, based on my meeting this morning, we're going to pretty much spend all of our SB 129 money in that expansion along with pretrial services. And so that, coupled with our CFCI, we'll be able to do some expansion until we, hit the wall on that.
So the budget, the positions.
Natalie, your line is open.
Natalie, are you there? Natalie? Okay, we'll go to our next speaker moderator. Thank you.
Our next participant is Cecilio Ratti. You may begin.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, we can. Go ahead. Hello, my name is Pitalaya Rasaki. I work at La Defensa, and I'm part of the Reimagined LA Coalition. I also thank Supervisor Mitchell for putting forth this motion, and would like to express my support for a Care First independent pretrial agency. Establishing a county-wide pretrial services agency is fundamental to meeting the county and community's goal of closing the central jail and prioritizing care over cages. As Supervisor Mitchell had highlighted in her comments, pretrial incarceration has proven to not only be costly, but a deadly practice in LA County. This year alone, 13 people have died while in the sheriff's custody, and half of those people were their pretrial, meaning that they were legally innocent and had not been convicted of a crime. We urge your aye vote and support Supervisor Mitchell in this motion. Thank you so much. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Brianna Siguenza. You may begin.
Hi, good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Brianna, and I work at La Defensa and live in District 4. Today, I want to emphasize the critical need for establishing a Care First pretrial agency within JCOP. Decarceration begins by reducing our pretrial population. Over the past 16 months, 60 individuals have tragically lost their lives while in custody in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. This translates to almost one person per week dying in your jails, a number that is likely even higher. Over half of LA jail's population is held pretrial, and many awaiting mental health diversion. Coordinating the support of pretrial services are essential for helping individuals exit and stay out of jail permanently. This is why Care First pretrial services are pivotal to reducing our jail population and ultimately closing Men's Central Jail. Care First means services that operate outside of law enforcement and minimizing the use of electronic monitoring, which research shows is leads to reincarceration. JCOB needs to center on care because that is what the community expects. We know electronic monitoring is not care. It is a system designed to fail and lead back to incarceration. I urge the Board of Supervisors to thank you. Expired. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Diana Fungia. You may begin.
My name is Diana Zuniga, and I live in Supervisor Hahn's district in Long Beach. I have worked for nonprofits like CURB and the county to develop and imagine the county's Care First approach. I thank Supervisor Mitchell for introducing this motion to establish the independent countywide pretrial services. As a supporter of RELA and the RAC, I'm excited to see an establishment of the Permanent Steering Committee and to continue county and community collaboration and accountability that we started in the ATI process, and excited to see the inclusion of the RAC, a body of formerly incarcerated experts. Is a clear step towards Care First and realizing the ATI vision, and I hope the pretrial recs in the report are fully implemented. Aside from access through the phone line and courts, it would be great for people to get access at the point of incarceration so people know what they're eligible for when they get arrested and know what to ask for at court. This is going to continue to help reduce the jail population, develop the needed community-led services that we've been advocating for decades, and help the closure of Men's Central Jail. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Anthony Arenas. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Anthony Arenas with the Justice LA Coalition and a lifelong resident of District 3 speaking in favor of Agenda Item 10, alongside the over 1,100 people who emailed your offices and the over 150 people who left voice notes with your offices. You can't ever forget that in the last 16 months, 60 people have lost their lives while in sheriff's custody. And over half of our jail population is there pre-trial, and many are just awaiting mental health diversion. Care First, Jails Never, pre-trial services are key to reducing our jail population and closing Central Jail, as promised by you, the board. And it also means limiting the use of electronic monitoring, which research shows only serves to put most people back in jail. Care First, Jails Never means situated outside of law enforcement and funding what it takes to get 10,000 community treatment beds online. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Byron Jose. You may begin.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. This is Byron Jose, SD2 constituent with the Latina Coalition and Reimagine LA. Thank you, Supervisor Mitchell and Judge Armstead, for your leadership to advance this work. As part of reducing pretrial population and the minimum and one of the urgent steps toward closing Central Jail, transgender, transit, and intersex communities support this motion to establish a pretrial agency. Committee members and system impact directors continue to call on the board to fund and prioritize Care First pretrial services informed by folks who live experience. DGI community members called for a true alignment towards the Care First Jail's last vision, which includes this pretrial agency outside of Reparations and other carceral institutions, as well as ensuring that there's $900 million funding allocation. Some board officers want to call for strategy and resources before we do this work. ATI, JCIT, JCOT, there have been numerous reportbacks and recommendations, and the resources as the CEO's current $42 billion to use towards true care, funding BYD, and truly imagining what will take to look out for communities. And again, holding up what the voters called for, and over 3 years ago towards Lester today.
Thank you.
And the board promised this funding.
Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Charles Vignola. You may begin.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm reaching out on behalf of the Los Angeles Regional Ranching Partnership, LARP, to speak on this motion. Creating opportunities for county activists, agencies, and organizations to speak to JCOD programs and see data is vital to the long-term success and viability of JCOD. But we believe the best path forward is to have the existing JCOD infrastructure support these programs rather than create new work and a new steering committee for this department. We urge the board to consider amending the motion to task the current JCOD team and steering committee with these responsibilities to streamline the process and allow JCOD to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Maya Hendricks. You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Maya Hendricks. I'm a resident of District 2, an employee of La Defensa and Reimagine LA Coalition. And I would like to thank Supervisor Mitchell for putting forth this motion. I would like to express my support for a Care First independent pretrial agency. Establishing independent countywide pretrial services is fundamental to meeting the county and community's goals closing Men's Central Jail and prioritizing with care over cages. Pretrial incarceration has proven to not only be costly but also a deadly practice for Los Angeles. This year alone, 13 people have died while in Los Angeles Sheriff's Department custody. Half of those individuals were incarcerated before their trial, meaning they were legally innocent and had not been convicted of crimes. We need the Board of Supervisors to set a clear and urgent timeline to address the human rights crisis in our jails. We need accountability, measurable progress, and a dedicated division within the Justice Care and Opportunities Department to lead this effort, and this motion will help us begin that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Concha Jones Mohammed. You may begin.
Hi, good morning. I really do just have quick 2 points on the data collection. One, we're in a state where being a descendant of persons enslaved in the United States matters, and so I hope that is a category, a checkbox for the intake process here. The second thing is that I hope there is data being collected on foster care, arrest and pre-child foster care, because that is a reflection of how the county has done in terms of their parenting, raising, the system that's in place for foster youth. So those are my 2 concerns and points. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Roy Humphreys. You may begin.
Okay, a great concept with very limited resources for a limitless, Dirty Harry Know Your Limitations situation. Problems with austerity is on the horizon. Ask any of the business channels. A Carrot Club is essential. Drug intervention, 3 strikes and you're out. We do not have the resources. Jails are an essential part of the system. Closing men's jails is fool's folly. There is no other country in the world like the United States. Don't do the crime, don't do the time. Sheriff Arpaio type confinement is essential to a successful system. Man lives by pleasure and pain. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Leila Murphy. You may begin.
Hello, my name is Lila. I'm a resident of District.
The federal judge came back and found the city, they didn't have a reasonable cause to arrest me, and I sat there waiting pre-trial motion. It took over 5 years for it to get them to settle out and things like that for me to be in jail. I truly, and I started at the airport courthouse, I truly thank you for bringing this motion into progress and things like that, because like you said, it's a lot of innocent people that don't belong in jail or there, until we start doing something about it. It's just a lost cause. It's a lot of tax people's money going down the drain. And I did receive $500,000 for sending to county jail for 42 times for nothing.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Robin Williams. I am with Dignity Empower Forever Moving Programs.
Is not services, it's surveillance. This board should work with JCOD and the courts on public education, judicial education about the harmful impacts of electronic monitoring, how LA's programs have extremely poor outcomes. In 2020, only 65% of the people on the electronic monitoring program successfully completed the program, and only 45% of the people on the SRP completed the program. This is often due to technical violations, like for failing to charge their device, especially for those who are unhoused and have no home or electricity to charge their device. EM doesn't set people up for success, it just reinforces a revolving door of incarceration. The data collected via this motion will demonstrate just that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, so I stand here in the spirit of Jelani Lovett. He was in jail January 12, 2021 due to the conditions. So some of the care first that you need to focus on is probation departments, some of your sheriffs. A lot of times they cause more mental harm than good, especially if they're low-level offenders. So we know that there's a big change that needs to happen, but when in actuality there really is no resources for them to rehabilitate. You don't have computers for them to look up stuff or job training or even a conversation. Everything is about money. Everything is about pitting gangs against each other inside the jails. So I want you to really think about when you're saying care first, to show it, to actually implement it, so people like Jelani Lovett and the Lovett family don't have to.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker.
Oh, yes. Thank you again, Arnold Sachs. Enough of uplifting conversation. Robust discussion. Laser-like focus. I'm sure you don't have, I don't know why you don't have a fathead poster for the LGBTQ, RSTVU, WXYZ flag. You should. And how can you force corporate cities to bend to your agenda?
This item is about pretrial services. If you could focus your comments on that item.
We have an assistant executive officer who was appointed to be a county commissioner as a judge. Why is she back here in county
Again,
court?
this is about pretrial services. If you could focus your comments on that item.
Courtroom, then she could do pretrial work.
You need to focus your comments on the pretrial item. Okay, you have exhausted all of your warnings. You're now done at this meeting. Thank you very much. Sergeant at Arms, please help him be escorted out. Thank you.
Triggered a lot of these conversations, right? Why it makes it so difficult. And as we see what's happening with inflation and the impact it has on CPI, the risk is there, and the HR did a good job of pointing that out in the report as well. But it was an anomaly, but we're seeing more and more anomalies not be anomalies anymore.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's good information. I struggle with inflation as it relates to our landlords, and again, we will hear from them, I'm sure, today, as well as we're going to hear and listen respectfully, obviously, to all those who are currently struggling as tenants, and as one of you said, and even a small percentage, it can be very difficult. But I think, for me, I understand the intentions of this motion, but I kind of am falling back on
Renters face are also clearly demonstrated through tens of thousands of eviction cases. Last year alone, there were more than 44,000 unlawful detainers filed in LA County, and this is while we are in a state of emergency on homelessness. I'm in favor of changing our rent calculation formula, revising the percentage of the CPI, and setting a maximum cap for rent increases that aligns with what many jurisdictions have done will help our rent-stabilized tenants from falling into homelessness. Do we need to be doing more direct rental supports? Absolutely. Not just one-time efforts like our county's rent relief program, which is providing $72 million for COVID rental debt, but ongoing programs too, like the Home Safe program that provides rental supports for our older adults. Home Safe, in fact, is one of the many programs facing cuts, and the governors may revise, however. And so I hope everyone here today who cares about that program, everyone who's listening on the phone as well, please advocate to the state and our federal government as well, because we need their support in keeping people housed. And do we need to build more affordable housing? 1,000%. This board continues to support a $100 million investment every year for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We all sit on the La Casa board, as has been mentioned, and we will hopefully fund more regional solutions to our homelessness and housing crisis, and we'll continue to support policy changes and projects in our own respective districts to increase production. But this isn't an either-or choice. We need all hands on deck and all of the above options. We must solve our homelessness and housing crises with every single tool in our toolkit, and prevention efforts like the tenant protections laid out in this motion are some of many things we need to be doing. We must do it all. And so I plan to support today's motion, knowing it's much easier to keep people housed than it is to rehouse them when they after falling into homelessness, and the idea that we would require people to fall into homelessness once again is just sinful. To do this effectively, however, we have to create a methodology that is simple for tenants and landlords, and the carve-outs in this motion give me pause. We need to make sure we aren't creating different sets of rights for tenants based on who they happen to rent from. The tenant rights landscape is already complicated enough. We consistently hear that tenants need support and legal advocacy, that they need assistance from legal counsel in order just to maintain the housing they already have. With ever-changing rules, we're going to have even more need for legal assistance. So I just want us to be mindful of that, because we're going to continue to hear requests for that as we continue to change rules. Tenants who live in small buildings with fewer units are no less vulnerable than other tenants, and maybe even more so. Studies have shown that they're more likely to become lower income, more likely to be people of color. That's not to discount the very real economic challenges property owners, especially individual family-owned small businesses, have faced during these past few years. There are substantial challenges with deferred maintenance from COVID years, as well as rising insurance costs, which have all been mentioned. These challenges can be addressed through mortgage relief programs, through direct support to landlords to fund renovations. We have also invested this county's own dollars in our small landlords to ensure that they are getting support from the county to keep people in the housing that they're already in. And this board has requested report backs on these types of programs as part of the habitability ordinance discussions. I would have preferred to see a carve-out be temporary, framed as a catch-up measure for some property owners because of the extraordinary circumstances of our COVID-19 pandemic. And in terms of the small landlord definition, before us is a definition of 10 units or less as amended today, but buildings of 4 units or less aligns with the definition of small landlord in the city of Los Angeles. According to the CEO report HRNA study, almost half of the rent stabilized units in the unincorporated area are in 2 to 4 unit buildings. That's 45%. Aligning with this traditional definition of small would still mean a substantial portion of buildings may qualify for the additional increase. And making it easier to understand policy across jurisdictions is good for both tenants and property owners. So I'm glad to hear Supervisor Solis suggest that. I'm also concerned that the self-certification provision will create 2 different tiers that tenants aren't aware of. It's challenging enough for our renters to know their rights, and creating different levels of rent increase limits may lead to further confusion. So I'd also ask that we consider a provision that requires notice to the tenant if the property owner is going to be subject to the additional 1% limit, which would say a landlord issuing a rent increase under Section 3B must provide proof of such registration to the tenant at the start of the tenancy and concurrent with the rent increase notice, which would go at the end of Directive 4 if the author is so willing to accept that. While considering that, I do have a couple of questions. First, how will this tiered system not incentivize property owners to take units off the market? If we are saying that there's a different tiering system for property owners who lease a certain number of units, because I don't think it's own, it's the number of units they're leasing, how will we not prevent them from taking units off the market to be able to comply with that unit lease number?
That's a good question that I don't necessarily have the answer for you right now, and I think it's definitely something that needs to be considered and evaluated as part of this process.
I'm concerned about that. You know, we may be incentivizing people to take units off the market in order to qualify for whatever we determine that threshold to be, and so then we would actually have people losing their housing even while we are trying to protect them, despite our best efforts. And I'm also curious to know how you will be administering this through DCBA. I don't see in this motion additional staffing positions or budget allocated to you. So I wanted to hear how you anticipate this going in DCBA, given that this will be a responsibility.
I do appreciate that question. It definitely will have an administrative impact on the work that the team is already doing. So one of the things that we're going to have to do is update our rent registry system to ensure that we incorporate the question to be evaluated as part of the request for that exemption, and so that they can provide the additional 1%. In addition, we do know that we will see an increase in requests for review of rental adjustments and fair returns. So we do need to potentially ramp up staffing in that area to make sure that we're responsive to the requests, both from the landlords and the tenants. So we'll continue to work closely with our good friends at CEO, who will always write me a blank check for whatever that CBA needs to make sure that we can get there. But it definitely will have some impact. But they've been very supportive and leading up to this point and providing us what it is that we need to help our operations work efficiently.
I know this motion calls for a report back, so I hope you will include some version of analysis of that so we can be aware of what to actually expect, because this will be an increase in administrative burden. And it will fall to you to help make sure that the tenants who will be impacted by these policy changes actually are getting the help and support that they need. So I'm interested in hearing that back from you as a result of this motion. Supervisor Mitchell, would you be open to considering that the notification to tenants who would be subject to the additional percentage increase, that they be notified about that? Because we're creating potentially through this motion a 2-tiered system, and I think I would prefer that tenants be proactively communicated with about which tier they are in, so they know how to prepare for whatever their potential rent increase might be. Yes. So
clarify the tiers that you're talking about. Is that where somebody can raise it?
So this
Only because we talked about multiple tiers with state, so yeah, say it one more time.
Yes, so this motion, as I understand it, creates different tiers where different types of landlords would be authorized to implement potentially different levels of increase. One tier allows for a 1% greater, and another tier, I think, potentially allows for a 2% greater, whichever tier they're in. So I would prefer that renters in each tier are notified proactively, whether it's on their new lease or whenever they get a rent increase update, so they understand what tier they're in, so they're not left guessing and as to which tier they fall into.
Notified by their landlord?
Yes.
I don't see how the tenant would be guessing which tier they fall under anyway.
They might not know this rent change is happening at all. So as a tenant, I know that there are a lot of changes that happen that if my property owner is not required to tell me, they likely don't. And so I would prefer that we require, if we're making a change, that, and it doesn't have to be a separate notice. It can just be included in when they're issuing a new lease, or when they're providing that rent increase notice, that the provision is included there so they know what tier they fall into. So it's not an additional administrative burden.
Greg Rep, Hassan Zuniga, Israel Gonzalez, Jess Bowie, Jesus Rojas, and Joseph Kowalski. Please come forward and staff will assist you. As a final reminder for participants on the telephone, if you would like to address item 11, if you have not already done so, please press 1 then 0 not be placed in the speaking queue. Moderator, will we have the first speaker, please?
Our first participant is Francisca Preven. You may begin.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
We can't quite hear you. You're a little bit muffled. Can you speak right into your receiver so we can hear you more clearly?
Okay. All right, how about now?
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you for that change. Go right ahead.
It's my AirPods. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Francisca Freeman. I live in Long Beach and own a triplex in Long Beach, so I am a mom and pop landlord. I'm calling because I oppose this measure because right now many landlords are coming out of restrictions placed during COVID, and we truly have not been able to catch up. I mean, a lot of the supervisors, I appreciate the supervisors that advocated for us with increasing insurance costs. I mean, I was dropped from my insurance courier, had to get another one, which increased my mortgage rate, as well as, property taxes and maintenance costs. I think this whole homeless crisis is a significant issue, and I just think we're putting the burden on the backs of landlords. So really advocating for more programs that support landlords. The current programs are only for landlord choices where tenants didn't pay their rent, but what about the rest of us, in which we do need support with increasing inflation costs, mortgage rates, as well as property taxes, and as well as doing make updates to our properties.
Your time has expired.
I yield my time.
Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Jim Shea. You may begin.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm another one of the mom and pops. I live in District 4. I teach high school, in public high school. Pay our bills, we can't stay in business. If we can't stay in business, then we pull out our properties. So you lose the properties and you lose our tax income stream. That's why I strongly urge you not to support this. You'll recall also that the BCBA also recommended that you don't support this. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Lavon Gilmer. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Lavon Gilmore, and I too ask that you vote against item 11. I am a mom and pop, literally, retired, and the cost that is, I don't think you fully understand the cost of maintaining apartments. The cost for maintenance, for getting work done, has gone up tremendously, just as insurance and property taxes and so forth, as other people have mentioned. And I just ask that you reconsider, come up with a better plan where the mom and pops are not used as a temporary scapegoat for the affordable housing issue. That, we're trying to maintain affordable housing, but you make it difficult when we don't have enough money to maintain our buildings. So I just ask that you reconsider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Everett Huckabee. You may begin.
Yes, thank you. This is Everett Huckabee. I'm a small property owner on the 4-unit building, and I'm opposed to this measure. And I just want to say that penalizing the housing providers is the opposite of what you should be doing. You should be helping the people that provide the housing for people. We have a homeless problem for many reasons, and putting those problems on the back of homeowners is not the answer. People can't afford their rent because they're being taxed too much on their income. The rate of pay doesn't keep up with inflation and a whole lot of other things. But that's not my problem. That's part of the problems I have to deal with when I'm looking for a renter. But my tax going up, maintenance, plumbers and electricians, all sorts of materials are going up with the inflation rate and higher. But yet you want to limit me to only maybe 3 or 4%, which is actually a loss because inflation is much more than that.
So time has expired. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Araceli Owens. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Araceli Owens. I am a property manager in Districts 2 and 4 who strongly opposes item 11. The cost of property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and repairs has increased and continues to go up, as others have mentioned here. The 3% cap proposal doesn't even begin to cover inflation rates. I urge you to oppose it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Victor Reyes. You may begin.
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Wonderful, thank you. Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Victor Reyes, speaking on behalf of the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, otherwise known as VICA. We oppose item number 11 as it lacks thorough economic analysis and could make housing less affordable and harder to find. Housing policies need careful economic review to avoid worsening the housing crisis, as rising costs like 111% increase in insurance from 2017 to 2022 demonstrate. While inflation has recently decreased and has been the highest in 40 years, and businesses cannot absorb those rising costs under price controls that don't keep up. Increasing housing supply and providing direct financial assistance are the best ways to meet the county's long-term needs. Item number 11 will not create any new housing units and will make the county more expensive over time, hindering the improvement of older housing and deterring investment. We ask that we reject item number 11 and support businesses and property owners during these challenging times. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Isaac Berneman. You may begin.
Isaac, are you there?
Hello. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am a owner of a number of apartment buildings, but I'm also a manager of a number of hundreds of apartment buildings. And this proposition is not only going to hurt the individual owners of property, but it's going to stop people from investing in properties. And this will cause people right now not to buy or invest in new property construction. We are also a real estate company, and we see that the real estate in the city and county has dropped considerably in the last 6 months. And our interest costs have gone through the roof, our insurance costs have gone through the roof, and this will stifle. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Teresa Loria.
You may begin.
Hi, the root of the problem is not putting more burden on taxpayers. The root of the problem is cutting taxes, because if you raise the taxes, we have to raise the rent. Therefore, you should save money, not offer programs and more programs that cost us money. Your job is to save taxpayers money, and therefore, we can lower the rent. And that's the problem. If you cut the property taxes in half, if you cut programs, if we are able to use the empty buildings that the government doesn't use them for rentals. Why do we have to lower the rent? Why do we have to pay for schools and libraries when the tenants don't pay for any of that? It's all onto the landlords. We're small. We have some people live out of their pensions.
Thank you.
We cannot
Your
afford
time
to
has
pay.
expired. Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Grace Gomez. You may begin.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. I am a small landlord. I have 60 units in the city of North Long Beach. And just as Ms. Freeman, the first caller, commented, I am not even able to recuperate from the COVID situation that we went through. Unfortunately, while the state of California is very generous and has the heart to help the people, a lot of people do not appreciate that. One of my tenants completely committed fraud. She put her name on the application for relief, but never submitted documents. So I'm here waiting for that to be approved, and the money came. The time that came for the funds to be available came and went, and she never did anything. So I think the problem is not so much that, the lack of wanting to help, but the tenants themselves. I, as a landlord, work 7 days a week, a night shift from 7 p.m. to 7 in the morning.
Your time has expired. Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Byron Jose. You may begin. Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. This is Byron Jose with the Trans Latina Coalition. Thank you, Supervisor Mitchell, for working with Rafael and DCBA team, as well as Kelly and DEO to advance tenant protections. We, as the Board of Supervisors, support the various coalitions and residents calling for RSOs and other board actions to address housing protections for our communities. Tenants and community members deserve to be prioritized, not just landlords. The board has the power to address our community housing needs beyond the supply and demand outdated narrative. Thank you, Chair Horvath and Supervisor Police, for supporting this motion. All of the rental relief county funds have ended up in the pockets of landlords. Even in the pandemic, families and residents receive little direct relief. The line that this board continues to walk is heavy towards protecting the vested interests of property owners and not direct support for families and county residents facing housing insecurity. Committee members hear loud and clear which offices support tenants who make up the majority of county residents and your constituents. Even after the primary elections, two offices continue to count out of special interest and not fund Care First nor community investment for all Angelinos. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll go to speakers in person. Please go ahead.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Connie. I'm a small units owner speaking as an individual. I urge you to vote no on a property owner. Buildings like mine are 1/2 of the county housing stock, and you should be very cautious about what you do today to maintain this housing. The amendments on this item are appreciated, but do not address the real issues, which are the true costs of providing rental housing. Help us help you. Please vote no on this motion. In 2020, pre-pandemic inflation was 1%. After your pandemic policies, inflation rose to 9%. Last year's 9% inflation did not go away. It is just added to the 3 and 4% of this year. What that means in real cost is the cost to paint my building was $15,000, and now it costs between $32,000 and $62,000. It's hyperbole to say that government will subsidize all the increases.
Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Maria Lopez. You may begin.
Hello, supervisors. My name is Maria. I'm a renter at District 4.
and I'm the campaign coordinator for the Keep LA House Coalition. I highly encourage this body to be bold today and vote yes on item 11. I live in Long Beach as well as many other landlords who have spoken, and I'm very worried for what is to come for us tenants. Obviously, we don't get paid enough, and it's very clear that landlords want to pass over burdens to us, folks who were born into poverty and oppression, and really lack the resources to even buy property in the first place. So highly encourage this body to be bold and vote yes today, and encourage landlords to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Genevive Clabrille. You may begin.
Yes, good afternoon. I think, we always attack the landowner and all that. I think we need to develop a system with more compatible supervisor and a ranching. And I don't see that often. And I think we need to stop that. So I'm glad to see that model and what you're doing about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Don Anderson. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Dawn Anderson, and I am a single owner. I own 18 units, so I don't fall into the small business, but I am a small business mom owner. And a lot of things have been addressed with the high cost of inflation, which I think you're all aware of. But something else that I don't think was mentioned is when we are evicting a tenant, they actually get to live in our apartments for almost a year, rent-free, and now I'm being extorted for more time and $8,000 to get my apartment back. So that is something that needs to be addressed as well. I urge you to vote no. Please vote no on item 11. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Natalie Jones. You may begin. Go ahead, Natalie.
Okay, go on to the next caller, please.
Our next participant is Dakota Iverson. You may begin. Dakota, your line is open.
Why don't we go to in-person and we'll figure out what's going on with the lines right now. Go ahead.
Sí, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Sofía Mendoza.
And it's just simply unfair to ask private property owners to fulfill a public mission. It's just not the right thing to do.
Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. I'm Yesenia Cruz. I'm a renter in District Number 2. I stand alongside
in losses due to COVID protections. This rent will never get back. We've done our share to help support the community and tenants, and it's just simply unfair to ask private property owners to fulfill a public mission. It's just not the right thing to do.
Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. I'm Yesenia Cruz. I'm a renter in District Number 2. I stand alongside Keep LA House and Immigrants Are LA Coalition. We're excited to see that the county is moving to implement a new RSO formula that caps rent increases at 3% or 60% CPI for all rent control units. But we are concerned about creating a two-tier system that would allow all but the largest landlords an additional 1% increase. With so much displacement happening across the county and families facing rent burden, strong rent caps are the only things keeping many of our elders, single mothers, and low-income families housed. We understand that the goal is to support small landlords, but we do not think that passing this benefit burden is the is the correct way to do this. Instead, we recommend assistance for small landlords through proven mechanisms like rental assistance or tapping into a similar funding source. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Oscar. I'm an organizer and a tenant in District 2.
If you do, and damn if you don't. You know, you guys got a lot on your hands here. One hand's this, and one hand's this. But I understand where you guys are going with it. It's a sticky situation, but we should arrive at a good solution with this. You have to keep people housed, and we have to start thinking about what are we doing to really tackle inflation and everything so everybody's happy. You know, this is a hard one. I don't know what the vote is on this, but like I said, you guys got a hard job right here. So whatever you guys arrive at, I agree with, but do the right thing. Thank you, Red Chief Hahn.
Sincerer words were never said in this hall. Next speaker, please.
Madam Chair, before we start, can I just, that reminded me, Red Chief Hahn, of a famous line from Gilbert Lindsay, the first African American city council member on the city of Los Angeles, said, I have friends on this side, I have friends on that side, I'm going to vote with my friends.
Next speaker.
Good afternoon, board. I am Daniela Barranco, proud daughter of immigrant parents and proud trailer member. I am here
higher. I fix things needed quickly. I don't want to become a homeless person myself by being forced to sell and pay what earnings left to taxes and capital gains. Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Daniel Jimenez. You may begin.
Hello, board members. My name is Daniel Jimenez, and I'm the Director of Community Organizing with Inner City Struggle and a Keep LA House Coalition member. I'm here to speak on support of Item 11. I've been serving and organizing in the East Side community of District 1 for the last 6 years, and I've witnessed the deep impact of the pandemic had on renters. Before the pandemic, families were already struggling to keep up with the rapid increases, and many had multiple jobs to be able to pay for the rent. But after the pandemic, the unaffordability crisis increased drastically. With evictions on the rise, our community cannot afford a rent increase. The needs of a small landlord should be addressed by the county, but do not have an impact on the most vulnerable tenants. People need protections and housing now. The board should adopt a new RSO formula that caps rent increases at 3% or 60 CPI for all rent control units. Our communities are still struggling with the aftermath of the pandemic. The new formula will allow for the predictable absorbent rent increases that reduce cost burden and do not fuel the increase.
Your time has expired. Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Mark Holler. You may begin.
Mark, are you there? Mark, please make sure to unmute your line. Mark? We'll go to the next speaker.
Our next participant is Eva Abuka. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, this is Eva Abuha, and hello, supervisors. I oppose item number 11. As a landlord since 1995, the cost of having...
What are you talking about?
We have more speakers on this item, sir. Thank you. Next speaker.
Our next participant is Roy Humphreys. You may begin.
Okay, a great dynamic, multifaceted topic. Don't mess with Mother Nature is the law which some of you are ignoring. Thomas Sowell and a host of others tells the woes of rent control, i.e. public housing, New York, Chicago, Pandora's box. You are enslaving housing providers as involuntary welfare agents. Corporate house raiders are a real problem and a powerful force. Welfare, not slavery or racism, causes racial inequality. And that's Thomas Sowell speaking. Thank you.
speaker, please.
Our next participant is Melissa Hardaway. Please unmute yourself. Your line is open.
Hello, Madam, Madam Supervisors. I was so excited to say that. I am my husband and I are mom and pop landlords here in Long Beach, and we oppose item 11. Sorry to say that. We are.
The money out the damn door and do it now. So that is a great bit of wisdom for the people and for the county departments that have been, hacking away like little pots of money. But this is not that. This is 48.
Thank you.
And I
Your
want to just
time
say,
has expired.
we got it.
Next speaker, please.
Okay, you got it.
Moderator, are there any other speakers?
Madam Chair, there were no other remote speakers to address the board.
We'll go to speakers in person. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Luis Pardo. I'm the Executive Director of Worksite Wellness LA. I'm also on the board of Saban Community Clinic. I reside in Horvath's district. Hello. And I work at Mrs. Mitchell's district. So thank you for having us. I'm representing today the CHOI program, the Community Health Outreach Initiative, and we are your nonprofit partners. Last year we received an award, the Silver Eagle Award for Quality. We provided this service to folks that need enrollment assistance into Medica, and also retention, recertification, and also connections to other programs. We are the link that goes to trusted folks in the community. And we are thankful for your support and thankful for having us included in your lobbying efforts, so yay. But we need more support. And we have a lot of folks that might be losing their job come July 1st in our community, in our programs. I'm very heartened to hear your definition of the programs and how we can keep the budget.
Thank you. And I just want to acknowledge, I just realized Dr. Rochford and I went to high school together. Was putting that together, I was like,
yes, correct.
I was like, I know her. It's been a long time. Thank you for the work that you do. With that, item 48 is before us. I will move it, seconded by Supervisor Mitchell, to approve the item. Executive Officer, please call the roll.
Supervisor Solis?
Aye.
Supervisor Solis, aye. Supervisor Mitchell?
Aye.
Supervisor Mitchell, aye. Supervisor Hahn?
Aye.
Supervisor Hahn, aye. Supervisor Barter?
Aye.
Supervisor Barter, aye. Supervisor Horvath?
Aye.
Supervisor Horvath, aye. Motion carries 5-0.
We haven't seen each other in more than 20 years.
Wanted to surprise you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. With that, the item passes, and we will now move on to item 84B, continuing the work of reparations in Los Angeles County. I know many of you had waited for this item. Thank you for your patience. This item was held by Supervisor Mitchell. For members of the public on the telephone, please press 1 then 0 now to comment on this item. Dr. D'Artagnan Scorza, Executive Director of our RD program, is available for questions, and I will turn it to Supervisor Mitchell.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. First of all, I feel compelled, based on the comment we heard from a caller, to explain why this item is last. I don't want people making assumptions based on the content about why it's last. First of all, it's been a very heavy, deep, rich board meeting today, from pre-trial to housing security, budget cuts, the provision of culturally appropriate services to our LGBTQ plus community. All issues that are relevant in a deep, profound way to the residents of LA County. The way our agenda works is agenda items get numbered based on when they are put forward on the agenda. And frankly, my team and I were working with a number of advocacy groups, reviewing documents to really make sure that we were bringing forward the best motion possible on this topic, given the weight and severity and importance of this topic. And so it was a green sheet motion on Friday, which gave it a very high agenda item number, which puts it closer to the end of the meeting. So I wanted people to understand the process, to not make any assumptions about why it was last today. And again, I think an appropriate issue to bring forward today, given the importance and the heft of so many of the issues we have talked about. 4 years ago, the county took a bold action, declaring its commitment to being an anti-racist institution, and created ARDI, our Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative. We recognized then that the long journey and hard work ahead was important enough for the board to create the initiative and allocate resources. And from my perspective today, we are again called to take yet another important step forward. For the past 2 years, the California Reparations Task Force conducted comprehensive research and developed an extensive set of recommendations that the state legislature has begun to turn into real policy change. The outcome of the work of the task force has yielded a 1,000-page report. The report provides the county with useful guidance in how we too can make the necessary work of repair and reparations our own and translate those principles to our county departments to serve county residents. Among the specific steps called for in today's motion is one, a formal apology, a key gesture that other jurisdictions like the City County of San Francisco and the City of Santa Monica have taken. In Directive 2 sub A, I need to make a small read-in amendment to correct word order. So the amendment I'm reading in, Madam Chair, is, as amended, it should read, quote, establishing a framework for a policy to prioritize housing for descendants of those who were displaced from their homes in LA County, end quote. And the motion also suggests that we start today, the month of just a few weeks before Juneteenth. We've all talked about Juneteenth. We know that history. It's now a county holiday. It's a national holiday. We're going to include in this motion a very small gesture of our commitment to the larger project ahead by offering free admission to county amenities to those who historically were excluded or dispossessed of access. So today's motion provides for free access on or during a day near Juneteenth to our museums and beaches, as well as any other facilities our departments deem appropriate. While the state legislature continues to develop the infrastructure to administer reparations programs, we can rely on a self-attestation as well as having people register to be contacted for future related programs and for official certification of eligibility down the road. I will note that we have relied on self-attestation of eligibility for a number of county programs ranging from cash assistance to workers at the onset of the pandemic. And I want to be clear that this motion, from my perspective, is just the next step in a very long journey. We are certainly aware of the near-term fiscal challenges the county faces, and like all of our programs, we would make sure that any specific programs are carefully designed and sustainably funded before launch. And so, I look forward to thoughtful and creative recommendations from our county departments, led by ARDI, on ways the county can continue the critical work of anti-racism in this next phase. I ask for an aye vote on this motion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I really want to thank you for your leadership on this and so many issues. And I know since 2020, the county has taken steps to explicitly identify and address systemic racism in its institutions. But this motion recognizes the work we still need to do to combat racism to address the legacy of slavery and its impact on African Americans and Black people in Los Angeles today. And reparations are a first step in repairing the devastation inflicted by slavery and racial discrimination, but there is much more work to do. This is an essential effort, and I support the work of the State Reparations Task Force and look forward to better understanding the actions of our departments and all that we can do in alignment with the task force's final report. Supervisor Hahn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Supervisor Mitchell, for bringing this forward. I was watching the state of California when they formed that task force, and spoke a lot with Senator Bradford, who was one of the members of that task force, and watching their work and really interested in their final report. And I'm really proud that we will be looking at this as a way to continue our proactive role in how we are addressing anti-racism, diversity, and inclusion initiative work. And I think no one will ever take away from us that we were the first county, in the world to return stolen property to a family in Manhattan Beach that had it stolen, 100 years ago. And, while that was, some would say it was easier than some of the work I think we're going to embark on, just because it seemed pretty clear cut. We had the map, we knew, exactly what we were doing, and yet the work that you did, D'Artagnan, on that effort, our county council, it was some heavy work just for that one, effort to right a wrong, and the years it took to accomplish that. But I'm so proud of the work that we did and how diligent and thoughtful we were. We pushed back, a couple of lawsuits in the midst of that. Again, and that was just one small effort to right a wrong. But I think a lot of the work that our county did on that, again, County Council, Tom Bonin, along with you and others, I think laid a groundwork for the fact that we can do this work. This is important work, and we can and should do this work. And I particularly like the fact that you included the language about a formal apology. I think that is critical going forward. And, we heard all the stories of why, a certain city could not do that. They didn't have anything to do with it. They weren't around 100 years ago. And yet the simple words of apologizing for past wrongs is so important, and I think so healing in a way. And I'll never forget Supervisor Mitchell, when we were standing there in Manhattan Beach and remembering how the city refused to apologize, and Governor Newsom said, "Let me, on behalf of the state of California, apologize." And it was so significant, and it was so meaningful. So I really like it that is a part of what we are resulting from past actions. So thank you for this.
Supervisor Barker.
Thank you, and I also want to thank you, Supervisor Mitchell. We've got the county position watch. If we take action today, then will that watch turn to a support?
So I think I'll defer to the CEO on that, Supervisor.
I think so, Supervisor. I think it would be consistent if the board is moving forward if the board is taking action today to move those recommendations forward, then I think in order for our position to be consistent legislatively, then we would want to watch or full on, we would want to support.
Okay, because there's 14 bills, and each one that I'm looking at has watch as the county position.
And I assume that's because, as we know in terms of our process, we have to give direction to our layer team. So I think a part of this motion would, as the CEO said, give them direction to include this body of policy work in their own scope of work, their advocacy on behalf of the county.
100%. I just wanted to get a clarification, because when I saw all the legislation with the watch, and then I knew that we're doing the key findings, that we're adopting the key findings and the state still hasn't, I was just trying to better understand process as it relates to this.
I think we would also want to just ensure, we know that bills can be gutted and amended. And so I think oftentimes when we're unclear about legislation, we will take a watch posture. And so we would work out the appropriate language with Lair so that our position is these are the recommendations that we would support, so that if there is an amendment to the bill later, that we really need to step up, because we can't afford for this type of legacy to continue. And so I agree with what's happening here today. This California task force is being recommended, and hope to see that we can get all of our county departments on board. And I support the fact that we're going to give fee waivers to allow for community residents that can take advantage during June 19th, so to speak, because it is an important day. That's an important day, as I'm reminded, where Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas, to announce that more than 250,000 enslaved Black people were freed by executive decree. And that marked our country's second Independence Day, a day that commemorates the ending of slavery. And I believe that many in this country at this time and moment may not fully understand that. And while we're celebrating Pride Month and all the other AAPI month and all of this, that we all come together and understand we're all in it together. So I'm profoundly supportive and know that this is very important. It's not just a symbol, it means something. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Supervisor Mitchell.
I just wanted to acknowledge all of my colleagues. Supervisor Solis, you're right. That, you know, the painful part for me in celebrating Juneteenth was that, you know, that notice came 2 years after the signage of the Emancipation Proclamation. So it was 2 extra years. And as you argue, the ongoing ramifications of that painful history. And with regard to Supervisor Hahn, you know, and the apology, when you think back to any government funded policy and any government or country that is attempting repair, they start with an apology. When you think about the apartheid regime in South Africa and all of the work that comes that is a part of transitioning from an oppressive state out of that system, it starts with authentic apologies, authentic acknowledgments of past harm. And so that's why we included it, and that's why I think there are too many examples across time and history that we see that those that have been successful in making those transitions, they've started there. So thank you very much. We've got a number of organizations that have signed on in support, a number of folks who I know who are here. We've got support, the California Legislative Black Caucus, Senator Bradford hopefully will be on the call, SCIU Local 721 2015, Ben the Art, Where is My Land, the AAPI Equity Alliance, California Black Women's Collective, the Black Experience Action Team, former Councilmember Mike Bonin, the Los Angeles Sentinel, the Greater LA Chamber, the Greater LA African American Chamber of Commerce, LaSea, the County African American Employees.
Billion Gutson, Brenda Sutton-Willis, Charles Williams, Therese Cryer, Cynthia Mitchell-Hurd, D. Danelle Gibson, Dolores Spears, Dr. Critical Truthbe, Isis Pickens, Kelly Todd, LaShawn Tillman, Lonald Sculler, Maria Nembhard, Mark Makoska, Megan Castillo, Monique Edwards, Oliver Buell, Reggie Hunt, Regina Martin, Rhonda Dixon, Ruth Mayfield, Stephen Neal, and Tanya McMillan. Please come forward and staff will assist you. As a final reminder for participants on the telephone, if you would like to address item 84B, if you have not already done so, please press 1 and 0 now to be placed in the speaking queue. Moderator, may I have the first remote speaker, please?
Our first participant is Cameron Peters. You may begin.
land rights, no-fly zone. You know what I'm saying? And this is so we can start our own currency. We need segregation zones and rights so you can stay off our land and stay out of our town. You know what I'm saying? All of this whole system has been very ungrateful, hateful, and you know what I'm saying? We don't need that. We're a very good people. We open the door for y'all. You know what I'm saying? And everybody coming here and y'all want to put reparations down on the last? No, we're not having that. So, you know, y'all going to have to run us our land, our no-fly zones, our water rights, and our commodities so we can have our own currency and build our own towns with none of y'all outside influence. You know what I'm saying? Black power. For the foundational Black Americans own, period. Michael Roberts. And I work for MTA. You know what I'm saying? 53842. That's my, you know what I'm saying? You can find me on the time has expired.
You are in queue. Our next participant is Dolores Ellis-Net. You may begin.
Hi, Delora Ellis-Net. So good afternoon, Honorable Supervisors, and thank you, Supervisor Mitchell, for bringing this motion. I am Delora, the president of the Los Angeles County African American Employees Association, a historically Black organization that was founded in this great county in 2009, and a 37-year proud employee. I'm calling in today in support of item 84B, which continues the work of the already motion to eliminate anti-Black racism through understanding what reparations mean to LA County. We are committed to working with this board to build a more equitable county of Los Angeles and urge you to approve item 84, which will reconfirm the county's commitment to anti-racism and anti-Black racism. The California Reparations Task Force report gives the county a wealth of research, actionable, meaningful recommendation. The CARE appreciates the initial
Your time
step.
has expired. Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Delvin Ablard. You may begin.
Devin, are you there? Devin, unmute your line if you're there, please. Okay, we'll go to our next speaker.
Our next participant is Kansa Jones Muhammad. You may begin.
Hi, I am Friday Jones. My name is Kansa Jones Muhammad. As Vice Chair of the Los Angeles Reparations Advisory Commission, I invited the Board of Supervisors into our process very early on. Thank you, Supervisor Mitchell, for attending in person, and remaining supervisors for sending staff. Note, our commission sunsets December 2024. I encourage you to request Mockingbird's Phase 2 report from Capri Maddox's office, which highlights Asheville, North Carolina, working with Buncombe County government on reparations, including budgetary funding and creating a community stakeholder authority. I also recommend utilizing the city's intergovernment liaison so that the efforts are synergized and not acting in silos for better service to Angelenos. I invite the public to the Juneteenth event, 10 a.m. at the All People's Community Center, and second event at USC School of Law at 4:30 p.m. Registration details are at www.civilandhumanrights.lacity.gov. Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Jimmy McMichaels. You may begin. Please unmute yourself. All right, good afternoon.
Jimmy, are you there? Jimmy? Try unmuting yourself, please. Okay, we'll go to the next speaker.
Our next participant is Kristen Nimmers. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Supervisor.
Supervisors. My name is Kristen Nimmers. I'm calling on behalf of the California Black Power Network in support of item 84B, which will continue the work of research and acknowledgement of the role of our local governments in slavery, Jim Crow, and the allowance of discrimination and generations of harm to Black communities. We are a coalition of over 35 Black-led and Black-serving organizations working in collaboration to dismantle anti-Black racism. And we're working at the statewide level to help bring the state task force recommendations to fruition, and believe that it is essential to the repair of Black communities that we do the work to understand the legacy of slavery, its impact on Black people today, and the actions needed by our state and local governments to repair and make amends for generations of harm. So thank you to Supervisor Mitchell for putting this forward, and we urge you all to approve this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Eric Preven. You may begin.
Thank you, and thank you to Senator Bradford, who really had his nose to the grindstone for a couple of years working on this. And you know, I like the spirit of this, and the waiving entry to county places and museums and beaches is a great idea. And in fact, it's come up because we want constant free entry to the Los Angeles County Museum of Natural History, not just for African Americans, but for all people in Los Angeles. We also want Exposition Park, which was a big lift for the county and the city of Los Angeles to give to George and Melody for the narrative storytelling museum. Well, here's a great bit of LA narrative. That's got to be open to the public so that there's no charging people to go in and explore the history of Los Angeles and the art by one particular billionaire. But that's not, the point is that it's on public land, like the state across the street. Let's open the doors, and that is one small way to give some back. And we can do more. We can do a lot more. So, thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Byron Jose. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Board. This is Byron Jose with the National Coalition. Thank you, Supervisor.
Disappeared. The California Reparations Task Force has detailed both the atrocities California participated in during slavery, but also what we have experienced post-emancipation.
Today, Black Los Angeles has been decimated. The percentage of Black people here has almost disappeared. The California Reparations Task Force has detailed both the atrocities California participated in during slavery, but also what we have experienced post-emancipation. Reparations is acknowledging that we are human beings just like all the rest of you. Reparations is ending the ongoing genocide, the longest genocide that's happened to any people on this planet, mass displacement, mass dispossession. Reparations is giving us the same restoration and repair that has been afforded to other communities, the Jewish community, the Native American community, the Korean community, not the welfare. We invite y'all to our Africatown Juneteenth, June 6th.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisors. My name is Asia Davo. I am here, number one, as a representative of my ancestors, Edna May Hall, Georgia May Hall, Andrew Lee Clark, Stephen Boson, and Mary Boson, and countless others, in addition to my community, South LA, and also as a representative of the Coalition for Responsible Community Development, CRCD. I am speaking in support of item 84B by Supervisor Mitchell, which continues the work of anti-racism through understanding what reparations mean for LA County. The California Reparations Task Force report gives the county a wealth of research and recommendations to now translate into meaningful action. As an organization, we have operated in South LA during the last 20 years, providing countless opportunities in employment, education, workforce development, and affordable housing to individuals that would benefit directly from the efforts of Supervisor Mitchell and the Reparations Task Force. The individuals that we have historically served include transitional age youth.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Isis Pickens, and I'm here representing Black women in need of health care that can speak to the invaluable roles that we play in California. 67% of Black households are headed by single Black women who are responsible for the health, education, and safety of Black children. Black Californians overwhelmingly report having negative experiences while utilizing health care. We still have the highest mortality rates for breast cancer and experience the highest financial burden from a cancer diagnosis. The Black population represents, as said before, the largest group of unhoused in California, many of which are women, Black women, who are in desperate need of immediate long-term care and mental health care. So I support the item 84B, and I thank you, Supervisor Holly Mitchell, for bringing this to the board. It is essential that reparations for Black Californians include healthcare funding to support more cultural representation, increase funding for more community resources, and specific.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Brenda Sutton-Wills. Congratulations on your work to successfully implement the ARTI initiative and the work of the county and its initiatives to support equity. I urge you to support Supervisor Holly Mitchell's Resolution 84B to continue the work of reparations and issue a formal apology. The Reparations Task Force report catalogs a staggering delay in equity in many areas, from enslavement, political disenfranchisement, stolen labor, and hindered opportunity. It's ironic and fitting that this is alongside the Motion 14 to support Juneteenth. The Emancipation Proclamation went into effect on January 1st, 1863, promising freedom to all of the Confederate States of America, including Texas. And as Supervisor Mitchell noted, 2.5 years later, emancipation finally came to Texas on June 19th, 1865.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Todd Griffin, the president of California Black Women's Collective Empowerment Institute and a resident of the 2nd District. The State of Black Los Angeles report states that Black Angelenos on average experience more adverse outcomes on various health, housing, income, education, safety, justice indicators. Indicators compared to their non-black counterparts, particularly whites and Asians. And with 63% of Black households being headed by single Black mothers, the need for intervention is evident. I applaud Supervisor Mitchell for keeping the commitment of reparations at the forefront of this county. I'm in total support of the item which is necessary to step. This is a necessary step to move the reparations work forward. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. I am LaShawn Tillman. I'm a 33-year veteran and employee of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I currently work as an operations assistant in the Sheriff's Training Bureau. I am also a proud shop steward of Local 721 and honored to serve as an executive board member of the SEIU Western Region African American Caucus. We stand in full support of Supervisor Mitchell's motion, item 84B, continuing the work of reparations in Los Angeles County. When a man starts out to build a world, he starts first with himself. These very words were written by Langston Hughes, are the foundation of this motion before you today, as this board looks to do right by its African American residents, who historically has faced systemic racism in almost every area of our existence. Under this board's leadership, Los Angeles County is again leading by example, moving the needle of progress in the form of real action towards whole person justice that is well informed and developed through recommendations from.
Thank you very much. We're now going to go back to speakers on the phone. Please, moderator, go ahead.
Our next participant is Chanel Frampton. You may begin.
Good afternoon, esteemed members of the County Board. My name is Chanel Frampton, and I have the honor of serving as the Director of Programs at the Greater Los Angeles African American Chamber of Commerce, an organization dedicated to empowering and advocating for African American small businesses in our community. I'm calling today to voice my unwavering support for item 84B proposed by Supervisor Mitchell. This crucial initiative represents a continued commitment to addressing the deep-rooted issues of racism and inequity that have plagued our society for far too long. By exploring the profound meaning and implications of reparations for Los Angeles County, we take a full step toward acknowledging the generational harms inflicted upon African Americans and pave the way for meaningful reconciliation. 4 years ago, we applauded the county's establishment of the Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative, a groundbreaking effort that signals a willingness to confront those complex
Thank you.
challenges.
Your time has expired. Next speaker, please.
Thank you.
Our next participant is Jacqueline DuPont Walker. You may begin.
Thank you, Supervisor Mitchell, for this motion. Much of what I would have said has been said. Just want you to know that I speak not only on behalf of myself and the communities I serve in districts 1, 2, and 4, but also on behalf of Bishop Clement W. Pugh and the AME Church. And he wants all of the board members to please support this motion with a yes vote. Thank you for all that you do. You give us hope.
Thank you. It's nice to hear from you, Madam Director. Next speaker, please go ahead.
Our next participant is Tanisha Johnson. You may begin. Ms. Johnson, please unmute yourself.
Tunisia, are you there? We'll go to the next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Linda Swan. You may begin.
Hi, good afternoon, Supervisors.
Same life opportunities. Black Americans are more likely to be underinsured or uninsured and less likely to have a primary care physician. As a union whose membership is overwhelmingly black and brown, these are issues that we feel every day when interacting with our members. Following the important recommendations by the California Reparations Task Force report, we urge you to approve item 84D. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Alma Morales. You may begin.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alma Morales with SCIU 2015. I'm living in LA County for more than 30 years, and I'm calling and speaking.
I'm a member of, I'm a board director here at Deaf Office. I'm Brandon Gilman chapter and a member of the National Panel and the Council of Los Angeles, which is the Divine Nine for African American fraternities and sororities. Historically, our people have been conditioned to turn the other cheek, to grin and bear it, and in some cases shut up and yell. I appreciate you bringing this to the table to help balance the conversation. As stated earlier, not a handout, but it's just a balancing act. And this is really heartening that you bring this, and I just really want to thank you. And maybe one day, hopefully, we can have African American vernacular English recognized as a language as others have been. So again, just want to thank you, and I appreciate this. So thank other supervisors who are supporting this in advance.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is T. Carter. You may begin.
Hi, I'm calling in reference to this bill that Mrs. Mitchell proposed, and also I would like to stipulate how there are things that can be done now before a reparation bill can be passed. I presented information how I was discriminated against, and Ms. Mitchell's office said they didn't have any proof. I also sent the email to show the proof where the board never responded to me to Lev, the director, over the Board of Supervisors. I had him to send it to Mrs. Barker's office. To date, no one has responded to me. So in order to make non-discriminatory things throughout the county, there are things that can be starting done now. And Ms. Mitchell ignored my matter. She's the only African-American person on there. Also in Boyle Heights, they gave a Hispanic male a $300,000 statue, but Frederick Madison Roberts was the first African-American assembly person before that Hispanic person. So shouldn't that statue come first? So there are things that can be done on a non-racial barrier now that the board can approve without DOJ. That's not being done. That statue in Boyle Heights, it should be the African-American statue because he was the first African-American assembly person before those other people and 10 years before.
Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Roy Humphreys. You may begin.
Okay, thank you. And while on hold, I was watching a little bit from Thomas Sowell about reparations, and it would be good if all of you did, because slavery was out everywhere, and it's much worse than what's ever in the United States. And this is a part of past history situation, and you want to try to make something of that better. It's what happened after. Now, if someone suffered some injustice after slavery, was abolished, that's another situation. And let us not forget the 90,000 indigenous persons in the state of or in California or the West Coast here that were enslaved by the Spaniards and the Catholic Church. And so let's give them some credit in this situation also. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Moderator, are there any other speakers?
Yes, apologies, I was saying that on mute. Our next participant is Hong.
1 and 0 now to comment on this item. Supervisor Mitchell, I will turn it to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and colleagues, I held it because earlier I didn't get the second I needed to be able to have the item put over. And I was asking to have the item put over because in the last week or so that the board officers have had to review the ordinance, my team and I noted a number of issues, both in drafting and in policy, that we wanted more time to iron out. So that was the point of me trying to have it put over.
Carnia, you may begin.
Karina Macias? Karina, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and Supervisors. My name is Karina Macias. I'm the mayor for the city of Canino Park, and I'm here representing over 70,000 residents, and I'm addressing item number 40, the workforce service contract that addresses subsidies consortium. Two main facts to consider for this item is one, the clear failure of EO to follow procedures that in turn open the door for standards to be applied incorrectly to the RFP proposals, which in turn allows EB Grant and Associates to submit minimum supporting documentation for its proposal and somehow be a potential choice. Second, the fact is that Hub Cities is an institution or community that over 30 years has and is the backbone for local jobs and local opportunities for our families and youth in the Southeast. And it's unrealistic and truly a dangerous notion that a New York-based company with zero foundation in South LA, East LA, and let alone the Southeast will have an iota of an idea of how to service these communities. I'm here to respectfully say, not on our watch. Hub Cities Consortium is not a flag organization. Hub Cities is rooted in community, and there's no way you're pulling roots from our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Our next participant is Yolanda Harris. You may begin.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. Go ahead. Hello. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. Go ahead. Okay, sorry. This is Yolanda Arias. I'm with the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to provide public comment on item 87, the draft LA County ordinance to create an Office of County Hearing Officer. We would like clarification regarding what county department administrative hearings will be subject to this ordinance. For example, will the ordinance apply to general relief hearings, Department of Healthcare determinations, while the proposal to create an Office of County Hearing Officer may benefit claimants in some administrative hearings, such as the LACDA disputes or actions. We have concerns about county councils serving as hearing officers in matters involving adverse county actions or determinations. We question whether county council can be an impartial decision maker in such actions. What will happen in administrative hearing decisions that have to be appealed in court? Perhaps the ordinance should contain language such as...
Someone has expired. Next speaker, please. Our next participant is Roy Humphreys. You may begin.
Recently, y'all put a push on Metro light rail safety with increased law enforcement. Question, what the hell took you so long? Every supervisor and chief staff must ride the rail every day and a day at the county jail per week. James Yang and supervisors should be fired for their disrespect to the constituents of Roland Heights, specifically Ms. Contreras on the parking program and the disservice on the Otterbein property 1530, with Ryan Serrano carrying their baggage and his mouth washed out with lye soap for the shucking and jiving excuses and lies told to me at the coordinating council meeting regarding that property. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Madam Chair, there are currently no other remote speakers to address the